Hi, my name is Don and I'm an animator. I've been working in the Japanese animation industry for a bit, and one thing that is really emblematic of Japanese animation are those crazy action scenes where the camera is flying around while the characters does their choreography. To do those, we use a technique called the Sakuga track up or Sakuga track back, and today we'll animate this scene using that technique. A regular track up or back involves you moving the camera in and out of the scene in your layout. You indicate the start and end positions, and the compositor makes it happen during the compositing phase of production. With a Sakuga TU or TB, we hand animate that camera move. It's much more complicated, but it allows us to create those crazy dynamic action shots that Japanese animation is quite known for. Let's get started. Before we animate, we should take the time to plan out our scene. We'll start off in a neutral pose with our camera pointed straight and tight on our character's face. Then, as she anticipates back before initiating the throw, we pull back the camera to reveal more of the character. As she is about to throw, we push the camera closer into the ball. And as the ball starts flying away from our character, the camera keeps tight on the ball as we move away from the character. Alright, let's get drawing. Like always, I'll be drawing in Clip Studio Paint, and you can find my layout template in the description below. For our first pass, we'll just get the main structure of the body down and try to get some of those features down, and we'll figure out the details such as the hair and clothes later once we get our movement locked down. For our starting drawing, it would just be a close-up of our character. You might as well get her glove in frame as well. We'll label it A1. Moving on, the camera starts pulling out on the character, so she is going to be smaller in the frame. I want her to anticipate here, so I'll tilt her head down and keep those eyes closed. We'll get that glove higher in there as well. We'll label it A2. Then we'll have our character take the wind-up pose before throwing the ball. Here she'll start turning, facing screen right. And note that the camera is still pulling back, so keep her smaller. I referenced a Shohei Ohtani video of him pitching while drawing this. Always use a reference when you can. Alright, label it A3 and let's move on. The camera continues to pull back while our character pulls out the baseball as she gets her arm high into the throwing position. We'll keep her head turning to keep the momentum flowing. This will be our A4 drawing. Moving on to A5, we continue with that movement with the camera continuously pulling back as the character gets even smaller in frame. The character starts to turn towards the target she is throwing at, keeping eye contact of whatever is off screen right. The left hand with the glove is lowered further, and the right hand with the ball goes up into the throwing position. Next, our character starts throwing and starts shifting her body weight forward as our camera moves tight on the baseball. Let's get that head really big and close to the camera and try to really push that expression. We can get the rest of the body in there. The left shoulder here is important to convey the action and the force. And let's get that right arm in there, foreshortened with the ball in her hand. Play with foreshortening to dial up the dynamism in your animation. Alright, label it A6. Next, let's go closer on the ball. Our character will just be out of frame here, and it's just the right arm and ball in frame. And that's A7. With A8, we go tighter on the ball even more. Here we see the hand and the ball. Then with A9, we go even tighter. I want to use the baseball to wipe the screen as we transition into the next section of the scene. This is also the drawing where our character lets go of the ball. Moving on with the next drawing, we want the camera to start pulling away from our character. The head is still pretty close to the camera here, so let's keep that big and in frame. Let's also take some time to nail that expression and try to keep that intensity up. The right shoulder should be leading and at the front now as momentum causes her body to rotate. Get that shoulder nice and big and really push the perspective. This will be our A10 drawing. For the ball, here I would like to separate it from our character layer since they are no longer connected. The ball will be on the B layer from now on. Next, we continue pulling out on the camera as our character becomes smaller in the frame. The momentum causes our character's body to continue rotating counterclockwise. An object in motion stays in motion. Her right leg is up and she is balancing on her left leg. That leg up in the air acts like a counterweight, allowing the force of the body to be transferred to that baseball. Label it A11 and let's also draw the ball on the B layer. Moving on to the A12 drawing, the character continues to become smaller in frame as the camera pulls out, tracking the ball. And again, there is a lot of momentum as her limbs continue to move forward. Let's leave the B layer alone for now as we finish the rest of our character. This will be the last drawing of our character before she exits frame left. Here she starts recovering from her soaring pose, going into something more neutral. She is again smaller in frame as the camera pulls away from her, and this will be our A13 drawing. I'll make a note that she exits the screen this drawing. Now I want to add some drawings on the B layer for our baseball. We want to keep this alive and moving. So right now the baseball goes up to B5. I don't know if it's enough, so let's time out our animation and find out. For the first half of our scene, I think I'll time everything on 3s. I feel like we need around 2 in between drawings as we go into A2, 3 going into A3, 2 going into A4, and since the spacing between the drawings become closer here, a single in between drawing going into A5. From A5, let's time everything on 2s as the pace of the scene speeds up. So 2 in betweens going into A6, a single drawing going into A7, and then no in-betweens going into A8, 9, and 10. As the camera starts pulling away, let's get 2 in-betweens going into A11, A12, and A13. The B cell with the baseball will also be on 2s. Here I have 1 in-between going into B2, 3 into B3, and the rest will have a single in-between drawing until the end of the scene. And playing this back, I think we can remove the in-between between A10 and A11 to make the end part of our scene go a bit faster. And speaking of the end, let's add a couple of drawings on the B layer to pad that out. Going up to B8 allows us to have a scene that is around 3 seconds and 12 frames long. Clip Studio Paint lets us create these temporary in-between track labels to mark where our in-betweens are. It's just a visual thing, but it makes things easier to read. Playing back our animation, I can see that the spacing between some of our drawings are a bit too large. So I will go back and fill in some of them with Nakawari Sanko drawings or in-between reference drawings or breakdown drawings as they're called in the West. One in the middle of A2 and A3 to help bridge that movement should be helpful, and one between A3 and A4. And one between A5 and A6 should be enough. Note that these are marked with a triangle. They aren't keys, but they help guide the in-betweener when they do their job. They are essentially what their name says, a reference drawing. Let's get those spacing diagrams in there. I made a video on spacing diagrams for my Patreon members, so check that out over there. Alright, to wrap up, I'll get the rest of those in-between labels in our timeline. Now let's take some time to add some details and anything missing, such as our character's hair, and finish our drawings. Especially with the hair, I think it is a good opportunity now to add some secondary action that can really add to the final look of the scene. And after looking through some of these drawings, I think an extra in between from A7 to A8 on 2s to help slow down that hand could help out the movement. As you work as an animator, you'll be constantly making adjustments. For the A6 drawing, let's add some shadows and use it to figure out the lighting for the rest of the scene. For rough animation, I will always shade in at least one drawing. And finally, let's fill out a timesheet for our scene. Our scene will be 3 seconds and 14 frames, and I'll just copy out our timed out animation into the action column. Alright, with everything done, we can finally check out our animation. And yeah, I think it looks pretty nice. The next steps would be to adjust some of the poses to help smooth out some areas of the scene, and once we get to in-betweening and coloring everything, I'm sure it will look fantastic. Thanks everyone, I hope you guys learned something, and I hope that this inspires you to draw. This channel is supported by my Patreon members, and if you'd like to help keep this channel running, links are down below. Members get some extra content every month for as low as $1. Other than that, check out my social media, and I'll see you next time.